Hola a todos y bienvenidos. You're listening to the Voices of Hope podcast from the School of Hope in Guatemala. Our 20th anniversary is in 2023, and we want to celebrate by sharing our stories with you. Each episode will have a special guest who has been part of our journey and the fundamental success of our school. Their stories will inspire you, and we hope you learn a thing or two about our wonderful country of Guatemala along the way. So, let's get started!
Hola! Welcome to our last episode of Voices of Hope. My name is Sinead. I'm the Development Coordinator at EFTC.
Y mi nombre es Roxana, soy la coordinadora de comunicación en EFTC.
We both work with our offices in Guatemala, the US, and the UK, spreading the word about our wonderful foundation and inspiring people to visit us here at the School of Hope. Throughout this series, we have talked to people who make EFTC possible, from students, partners, teachers, and sponsors. Today is a very special final episode. We have 2 hosts, 2 languages, and 3 guests. This bilingual episode will be with Jennifer, one of our students, and her sponsors, Jane and Tom. We are so excited to showcase student-sponsor relationships and how it empowers young women to follow their dreams. Hi, Jane, Tom, and Jennifer. ¿Cómo están? How are you?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm good, thanks. How are the 2 of you doing?
We're doing well, kind of excited. We haven't seen Jennifer for a couple of weeks, so it's good to see her again.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you today?
I'm fine.
The first question that we have is, how did you get involved with EFTC?
Well, I think it was 2015? 15?
Or 15 or 16.
Jane and I were touring Central America with a company called Overseas Adventure Travel, and one stop was in Antigua, and we spent a morning at EFTC and learned all about the school and became quite excited about it. We came home and decided that this is something we should do. We signed up to sponsor a student, and Jane can tell you about that.
And so we contacted the School of Hope, and the school sent us the name of Jennifer and said, Jennifer is a young 6th grade student. We're looking for a sponsor for Jennifer. Would you be interested? And we said, of course we are. And this has started a wonderful, wonderful journey with Jennifer along the way that has just been so rewarding for both of us.
Jennifer, ¿cuándo entraste a la escuela La Esperanza?
En quinto primaria,
En quinto primaria. ¿Y hace cuánto fue eso?
hace como 8 años.
Has llevado una aventura entonces.
Sí.
Y junto con tus padrinos.
Could you tell us how long you've been Jennifer's sponsors?
Well, we started sponsoring Jennifer, I believe, in 2016, shortly after we got back from our trip. One of the interesting things that we found about being Jennifer's sponsor is that while we were in Antigua, we found out that there were language schools. And Tom and I had always said before we died, we'd wanted to learn a second language. So Jennifer was really the impetus for us to return to Guatemala for 2 reasons. One, to try to learn some Spanish, and also to have the chance to see Jennifer. We had never met her, and so in 2017, I believe, we came to Antigua for about 10 days. We spent a week in language school, and then we had the opportunity to go to the Escuela de Esperanza and to meet Jennifer and her family, and what a grand occasion that was.
I remember the first time we saw Jennifer, she was so shy, she could hardly look at us. And then now she's such an accomplished young woman. It's been so exciting to watch this transformation.
That sounds really sweet to be able to be with someone from 6th grade, and now she's one of our becado students, one of our scholarship students. So that's super special to be able to have this relationship that's grown throughout the years. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship? So that start when she was super shy and barely talking to your video calls that happen pretty often and your visits and that kind of stuff?
With our visits, we would always have an opportunity not only to meet Jennifer, but also her family. And that was really special to meet her parents, her grandmother, an aunt, a cousin. And so we feel that we're really part of the whole family. Jennifer, I think, grew a little bit more comfortable with us each time that we visited. We had a chance to have a pizza party with the family, to play Uno, and it's just been an incredible journey, I think, for all of us. And Tom may have a few things that he wants to add to that.
I think I remember the first time we got together, Grandma was there, and we had just started our Spanish, and so she was talking to me a mile a minute in Spanish, and I had no idea what she was saying, but I had a pretty good idea what she was trying to convey, that Jennifer is such a wonderful young lady and thank us for helping her. And it's been such an honor to be able to watch Jennifer grow and to be a part of her family.
That sounds super special.
Jennifer, ¿nos puedes hablar de cómo ha sido la relación que has tenido con tus padrinos? Ellos nos contaban pues que ya vinieron a conocerte y hemos visto que tienes varias videollamadas con ellos. ¿Nos quisieras contar un poquito más de eso?
Sí, al principio cuando yo los conocí realmente no sabía nada de inglés y era como que muy difícil comunicarme hacia ellos, ya que mi nivel de inglés no era tan avanzado. En el transcurso de estos años he llegado a apreciarlos y los he tomado como unos segundos papás para mí, porque me han apoyado siempre y me han echado ánimos para seguir adelante en mis sueños. Y ellos dicen que no es un camino fácil, pero se va a poder. Y en tiempo que los he conocido, realmente han sido buenas personas que me han ayudado y me han brindado un estudio para forjarme en un futuro y tener la recompensa.
It's so lovely to hear both sides of this relationship because both of you are sharing such special moments and special relationships that you have with each other. So thank you for that. Something that is interesting about this episode and just about a lot of sponsor-student relationships is the language, because most of the time one half speaks English and the other half speaks Spanish. So how has that been developing a relationship in a second language or a language that you're not as comfortable in?
Well, I would say after our first attempt at Spanish in Antigua, I was ready to quit, but Jane had a really good experience, and so she drugged me along the next year. And as we continued to learn a little bit of Spanish, we would try it out on Jennifer and her family. And as we learned a little bit more, we got a little bit better at it. It does make it difficult to be able to converse when you're in two different languages like that. It's kind of hard to go through a translator, but I guess, and I think Jane would agree with this, at the start, we tried to speak Spanish so we could understand, more what was going on and learn more. But as time went on, with Jennifer trying to learn English, we had to go back to speaking English so that she could practice her English.
And that has been really interesting, especially in writing letters to Jennifer. I would always write in Spanish. And like Tom had said about speaking, the writing was really interesting. To write a short letter to Jennifer in Spanish at the beginning, it took me maybe an hour, 2 hours to write one paragraph to get things in what order I thought was relatively correct Spanish. But as time went on, the letters got longer and it took less time to write the letters. But all of a sudden, here I was writing my first letter to Jennifer in English. And that was really quite an occasion to think that Jennifer had come that long way, and was able to read English and was looking to a career where she could use English, which is to us a very empowering thing for young women like Jennifer.
That is a really special moment when you're able to communicate in both languages.
I think right now the interesting thing is we haven't been to Guatemala since COVID, and we're looking forward to returning soon. What we're hoping is that our Spanish is good enough now that we can communicate with Jennifer's family in Spanish, but now we'll have the opportunity to communicate with Jennifer in English. And that will be kind of interesting to see how all of that plays out after all these years.
Es muy lindo escuchar escuchar que tus padrinos están estudiando español también para poder comunicarse contigo y tu inglés también para hablarles a ellos, ¿verdad? Y para tu futuro. ¿Cómo ha sido ese proceso de comunicarte con ellos por la barrera del idioma?
Al principio fue algo difícil porque no era mi idioma natal, entonces fue muy complicado poder comunicarme con ellos, pero conforme al tiempo me empezó a gustar el inglés por mi carrera también, entonces es un poco más fácil poder comunicarme hacia ellos. Ellos aprenden español y yo aprendo inglés para que tengamos dos idiomas al momento de comunicarnos. Él me ayuda y yo los ayudo a ellos, entonces creo que es un trabajo mutuo que podemos lograr si nos lo proponemos.
Es muy especial. ¿Cuándo empezaste tú a tener interés por el inglés? ¿Hubo alguna situación que te llevara a esto?
Al principio fueron ellos quienes me motivaron a seguir mi inglés y seguir adelante con mi inglés, empezar a estudiar. Luego mi motivo fue por mi carrera, que me gusta el inglés, que estoy agarrando secretariado. Y lo otro fue porque estoy aplicando una beca en la organización que se llama Chica, donde me piden un nivel de un 80% para poder estudiar en la universidad y en el extranjero. Entonces es una gran ilusión y una gran motivación por la cual estoy luchando en este momento.
So Jennifer was just talking to us a little bit about her experience, her process with learning English. We are curious what inspired both of you to want to financially support Jennifer's English tutoring.
With the English tutoring, we have learned in our travels throughout the world that English is the key to success for so many young women. And Tom and I were both teachers, and we just have felt that being able to support young women in their career to advance, to help their families, for their own personal satisfaction and motivation, that English is the key. And Jennifer is such a hardworking, such a dedicated student that we felt that investing in her future and in her English language study would be one of the very best investments that we could ever make. And so when this opportunity came about for us to help support Jennifer a little bit more with her English studies, this was one thing that we looked at each other and said, this is what we're going to do, and we'll follow her and support her as long as she needs the help and wants the help with furthering her education, because we really do believe in women and how young women can actually have such an impact on the world.
I can still remember being out in the garden at the school with Jennifer and her family, talking about the importance of education. And at that time, Jane and I made a promise to them that as long as Jennifer wanted to study, we would provide the money. And this is another opportunity as she continues to study. As long as she's studying and learning, that's what it's all about.
That's really special to hear, that aspect of just giving someone an opportunity to continue their studies, and then also specifically helping a young woman, because we know that in Guatemala it's a little bit harder for women to continue their studies. So I know that we all here at EFTC and Jennifer really appreciates your continued support.
Jennifer, ¿qué has aprendido en todo este proceso de aprender inglés?
El speaking, en la gramática y en el oral son unas partes muy fundamentales para poder comunicarme hacia las demás personas en inglés. Y una de esas es que es un idioma algo difícil, pero no complicado de estudiar. Y es una gran inspiración para mí como persona, porque siento que me va a ayudar a abrir muchas puertas, tanto en el ámbito oral, tanto como creando amistades, y con el inglés puedo llegar a ser alguien más profesional en un futuro y poder viajar, conocer nuevas culturas. Y sobre todo el inglés es muy importante para mí porque algún día yo quisiera tener una gran comunicación con mis padrinos y poder hablarles muy bien como que fuera mi idioma natal.
Jennifer shared a little bit about the process of learning English, and we're curious, what has it been like on your side of her whole process of learning English?
In learning a language, I think this is true for whether it's English or whether it's Tom and I learning Spanish, is that it's a long process. It's a hard process. It's slow. Slowly but surely seems to be motto in learning language. The vocabulary building, it needs to be there, the listening, the speaking skills. And I think probably the most difficult thing in learning a second language, either for Jennifer or for us, is learning how to speak. That writing and reading and understanding comes in that order, but the speaking is the last piece of the puzzle, and it's the hardest piece. And we're slowly getting there, and we know this piece of the puzzle is going to fall in place for Jennifer as she progresses with her English language study.
I think for most of us in a foreign language, the big fear is speaking incorrectly. So once you get over the fear of making mistakes, you just have to, dive into it and go. We both, I think Jay and I both would agree that at some point you just have to be immersed into that foreign language and use what you have. And it probably would be a lot more frustrating to do it that way, but you would probably become fluent a lot more quickly that way. Scary, but I think that at some point Jennifer will probably end up needing to be immersed into English speaking culture where that's all they speak and she can't fall back on her Spanish. And it's the same with Jane and I. When we first went to Guatemala, it was just try and find the English sub things in the restaurants and all that. But at this point, we know enough and are comfortable enough that even though we may make mistakes when we speak it, we can speak to people and communicate that way. So, and I know Jennifer's having those same problems. I think it's just universal that trying to learn another language, unless you learn it when you're very, very young, and it just is a part of you. That's just part of the problem.
I bet it's going to be so nice when you're here in person and for Jennifer to be able to communicate to both of you in English and you be able to communicate to her family in Spanish, because it sounds like you already have such a special bond with them. So it'll just keep growing. How has it been watching Jennifer grow up for these past 8-ish years?
I was going to say, I told you that, the first time we met her, she was so shy, she could, hardly look at us. And the last time we were there, which unfortunately was 3 years ago, we were in the school waiting, and she was across the courtyard speaking with some friends. And when she saw us, she just left them and came running across the courtyard to give each of us a big hug. So that's a big improvement over a short period of time.
With Jennifer, I think the thing that I've enjoyed most is I can remember one of the first times we visited practicing English with her, because the School of Hope does do classes in English. And so as a sixth grader, as a seventh grader, I thought, oh, she'll know some English words. So we went through colors. What is the rojo? And I knew enough Spanish that I knew my colors in Spanish, and I figured she'd know her colors in English. And so this was how we started. And then she was very reluctant to even do that. And then the next year we went from colors to numbers, and then a few words. And then now when we do our video calls, a lot of it is in what I would call Spanglish, kind of a conversation in English with Jennifer speaking the English she can and us speaking the Spanish we can. And it's just been really exciting to see the transformation and how comfortable she has become speaking English. Like Tom mentioned, that's the big fear, is speaking English incorrectly. And I can remember our few video calls when we tried to do the English language. Jennifer was a little bit reluctant to speak, but as we had more and more video calls, her confidence grew and grew and grew. And she just is a remarkable, poised young lady. And she's not the little girl we started with. She's a beautiful, accomplished young woman.
Jennifer, ¿cuál es tu recuerdo favorito con tus padrinos? ¿Algún momento que te llene de mucha emoción o de mucho cariño?
El primer día que los conocí, estaba bien pequeñita, no sabía nada de inglés y ellos trataban la manera de explicarme las cosas. Me recuerdo que ellos llegaron y fue un momento muy especial porque a pesar de que no los conocía, rápido se ganaron mi cariño. Y recuerdo de que jugamos un juego como de uno y fue un momento agradable para mí y para mi familia porque pudimos pasar tiempo con ellos. Recuerdo que me hacían preguntas no tan difíciles, lo más básico como los números, los colores, y ellos entendieron y no me presionaron y fue algo muy especial para mí.
What is one of your favorite memories with Jennifer?
I think one of my favorite memories with Jennifer is one of the last visits we had before the pandemic. We met with her family at the school and we had a pizza party, we had pizza, we sat and talked, and Tom and I had taken an Uno game for Jennifer and her family. And we sat and played Uno. It was just like sitting around the game table at home playing Uno with your family, only we tried to do it in Spanish, we tried to do it in English, and it just was really a fun family time. And that thinking about that just always brings a real smile to my face.
I have to agree with Jane that I think that is one of my favorite memories. It was, like Jane said, just so much fun. We were just joking around and kidding. And as I remember, the rules were very fluid. They may change as the game goes on, depending on who needs to have the rules changed. And it was just so much fun with Jennifer and her whole family there.
That's so special that you all three said the same memory for one of your favorite memories. Yeah, so it must be like one of the core memories that you have together, which is really special. I feel like I keep saying that your relationship with each other is so special, and so lovely, but that's just like, the more I hear, the more lovely and special I think it is.
Ahora es tiempo de un segmento especial. Tienes 15 segundos para compartir una joya sobre Guatemala. Puede ser un lugar, comida o una tradición.
I think my favorite memories of Guatemala are just walking through the streets of Antigua, maybe sitting on the square, watching all the activities, trying to talk a little bit with local people. Of course, the food is also fabulous, but I think one time we figured there were so many restaurants, we'd have to go to a different restaurant every day for over a year. Just being a part of the culture is just so exciting to me, and I think to Jane also.
I would agree with Tom, and I'm going to add something on top of that I think he'll also agree with, is I have so many fond memories of people there, of our teachers, Betty and Evelyn, that worked with us on our Spanish, our host at the apartments where we stayed, Tom and Alejandro, getting to know Fernando and his staff at Fernando's coffee shop. Of course, getting to know all the staff members at the School of Hope. And then the icing on the cake is having Jennifer and her family there. So those are my really special memories.
Mi lugar especial es el parque, porque es un monumento de la naturaleza donde varias personas se pueden apreciar, donde uno se siente como más tranquilo, donde hay paz y disfrutar de la naturaleza que tiene nuestro país. Una de las comidas que me gustan es el pepián, es un pepián tradicional, realmente tiene mucho significado para mí por parte de mi familia y realmente yo lo valoro mucho.
Gracias por compartir eso. Thank you for sharing your gems of Guatemala. Before we finish our episode, we would like to remind you of your last chance to be part of the special competition for our supporters to win one of our very new, very lovely EFTC shirts. We'd love our supporters to share their favorite EFTC photo. Maybe when you visited the school, attended an event, or even at home when you received a letter from a student. Everything is welcome. We will be sharing the photos on our Instagram, so make sure to follow us and tag us on your post at EFTC Foundation. Thank you, Jennifer, Jane, and Tom, for sharing your student-sponsor relationship with us. It's one of the most special connections you can have at EFTC. We have loved hearing about your relationship and how it has supported Jennifer in accomplishing her goals.
To say Jennifer is our investment in the future of Guatemala.
Thank you for listening to one of our amazing stories of hope. Please visit our site to sponsor a student. Visit us in Guatemala or learn about what you can do be part of our work.